Right. All right. What's another video we can get to? Oh, did you guys see this? While we're on the conspiracy thing, I mean, that's really been to me the big takeaway this past week, as it's really starting to everything that happened the week before is starting to settle in, and I think a lot of people who weren't aware are really starting to take in just how much of what went down was part of a giant conspiracy theory movement that they weren't even aware of. But this is a really crazy video of Congressman Correa, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I'm not 100% sure. He's a representative from California. He was waiting in the airport the day after January 6th, so January 7th, and he just happens to be in the waiting area with a bunch, like I would say a dozen or so Trump supporters, and they all start ganging up on him. And listen, I'm all for, pushing your congressman wherever they are for policy, to call them out when you think they've done wrong. But if you listen to what's going on here, you'll quickly realize that's not what this is. And it's honestly one of the craziest of these videos of a congressman being accosted on the streets or, in public I've ever seen. Can you play that clip, Brendan?
Yeah. How are you?
Hey, does China fund you
to invade the capital of the United States?
No, nobody invaded.
Who coordinated the whole thing going into the Capitol? Go ask them. Yeah, the police let Antifa in. They opened the doors.
Your lie.
And they blocked it.
Hey, your lie has been exposed. Your lie has been exposed. Your lie has been exposed. You're a liar. You're people. No, it's not a democracy. This is a republic. This is a republic. This is a republic. No, this is a republic. We the people, not you the elitists. We the people.
Democracy.
You feel your money with our money? You feel your pocket?
I work for my constituents, boss.
Who are you? You literally got no spine.
Who are you?
Who are you? Looking at me.
I'm me, motherfucker.
And I'm me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get home.
Yeah. Nobody here voted for you. We don't want
That's
you.
okay.
We don't want
That's
you.
okay. I don't work for you.
Why are you ashamed of who voted for you?
A lot of people. 70% of people in my district.
What city?
Dominion.
Did they use Dominion?
What city?
The best one.
Did they use Dominion?
And you will never get elected. You'll never get elected.
What's your name?
Don't ask the question.
We could. It goes on like that, but
No,
one of the really interesting things that first of all, that woman over there at the end, what you hear from her specifically, I didn't want to talk about her first, but what you hear from her specifically is my kids' futures are effed because of people like you. That's something that I'm sure a lot of people on the left and across the political spectrum feel about politicians. The difference is, though, if you take in what all the other people who are her allies around her are also saying, behind those words of hers aren't the same thoughts you have as to why your children are effed. To her children are effed because Dominion voting system screwed Donald Trump out of the presidency, conspiracy number one, because the Chinese Communist Party wanted the Democrats to win, conspiracy number two. And Antifa, by the way, is who led the Trump supporters into the Capitol, conspiracy number three. Like, it was just amazing to see. And this goes on and on to this one guy against all these people. And it's just, just to hear these conspiracies being said in real life like that by like an angry mob. It's just, it was just, kudos to the congressman for actually, standing up and not backing down. I don't know if I've ever seen any congressman actually do that when you see all these Republicans running away from like the what is it? The climate change. What is it? The Sunrise movement. Young kids with the Sunrise movement asking for policy to save the planet and save them from climate change disaster. And, they're running away from them. And here's this guy standing up to these out of their mind Trump supporters.
Well, he gave an interview and kind of was like, oh, my adrenaline was still really high after, because I believe what happened there, that was the day after.
Right, yes.
I would imagine, look, we're not somebody who simps for politicians and, likes to play little violins for them. But I would imagine that was very traumatizing. There were people, especially representatives who have been targets like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar, who genuinely were fearing for their lives, and I completely understand that. So I totally get him going after them. And yeah, it's nuts. Imagine if we held representatives like that accountable with healthcare, but instead it's like Q bullshit nonsense. And of course the guy that gets in his face is wearing the bandana, the universal sign of like the most insecure masculine man, because for some reason a mask is not is feminine or whatever. They have to wear the bandana that does absolutely nothing and just keeps your entire chin and lower mouth exposed as it flaps back and forth.
Well, my takeaway from him was the Bane voice. Did you notice him doing like the Batman voice, I should say, purposely making his voice deep to make himself sound there's no way that guy actually sounds like that. It sounded like someone trying to do a scary voice.
Yeah. It does concern me though. Like, I don't know what class this woman came from, and we've talked a lot about how this is a petty bourgeoisie-led phenomenon, right? We saw people on video the other night saying, we're the small business owners, right? I don't know how much more evidence you need, but if you look at all of the people who voted for Trump, there are working class people in this coalition, and it's very concerning to me that there are people in the working class who sincerely believe that their children are going to be effed under Biden and not effed and un-effed under Trump, when in fact, they're going to be effed under both of them, but one maybe slightly less so. I don't know. It's a real challenge, and it's a real problem of the left, and we're going to need to get more of the working class, more of the proletarians who are part of this coalition on our side. And the only way we're going to do that is by presenting like a real alternative,
But also, it's not just she thinks under Biden her kids are effed and not under Trump. I mean, obviously that's ridiculous. It is like you said, but it's also the reasoning behind those guys. Like she thinks Trump's answer, keeping immigrants out of the country, keeping taxes super low, helping out the very rich and wealthy because they're the job creators. She thinks that's what her children need for a great life in the future.
If she's a small business owner, then she might be right. Because the petty bourgeoisie, they're in times of crisis, right? They're defaulting to an economic nationalism. They want to reduce competition internationally. They want to turn back the clock to the golden age of capitalism. They also want to keep the minimum wage low, things of that nature. So like their material interests do align on some level with the Trump program.
Right. But before we move on, though, I do have to say, do you have a problem with masks, Emma? I mean, bandanas, I should say. I'm sorry, I was too busy doing the Batman voice to realize what I was talking about.
Problem with bandanas, because it doesn't fucking work. Wear a mask. It's fine. You'll still be able to hook up with women or dream about it at the very least.
All right, you guys want to take a call or two?
I want to just imitate what a bandana does, okay? This is a tissue. Like, this is still open. It doesn't do anything for COVID. Wear a real mask. Jesus.
To be fair, though, bandanas are are accepted as face coverings, though. So
Yeah, it does more than not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's the bar, yes.